All right, I will call the October 26, 2023 TRPA Hearings Officer meeting to order at 2 p.m. My name is Marcia Birch, and I will be serving as the hearings officer today. We'll go ahead and approve the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda? Seeing none, I will approve the agenda as it was posted. And now we'll move on to public interest comments for no action. Any member of the public who wishes to address the hearings officer on any item that is not listed as a public hearing item on the agenda may do so at this time. Public will be taken at the time those agenda items are heard. The hearings officer is prohibited by law from taking immediate action on or discussing issues raised by the public that are not listed on the agenda. All right, so we'll see if there is any public interest comments here in the room. Seeing none, Jessica, if you could check online.
All right, so if any member of the public would like to address the hearings officer, please raise your hand now by clicking on the raised hand at the bottom of your Zoom screen or by dialing *9 if you've joined by telephone. There are no raised hands to comment.
All right, so I will close the public interest comments. Item 4, announcement of appeal rights. Any decision of the hearings officer is appealable to the TRPA governing board. The notice of appeal, which can be found on TRPA's website, and associated fees must be filed within 21 days of the hearings officer's decision. All right, we will move on to our public hearing items. We have one. Item A is the Village Christian Academy, the Village Church, temporary use, schools, kindergarten through secondary, 736 McCrory Boulevard, Incline Village, Washoe County, Nevada. Assessor's parcel number 124-061-19, and that's TRPA file number ERSP 2023-1157. All right. And Bridget Cornell will be presenting.
Yes. Yes. Thank you, Marcia. Thank you, hearings officer. Again, my name is Bridget Cornell, and I'm an associate planner in the Permitting and Compliance Department with the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency. So this item that is being presented today is a proposed temporary use at the existing Village Church in Incline Village. The existing use on site is the church itself, and the church also operates a daycare and a preschool. And within the TRPA Code of Ordinances, daycare and preschool is a separate use from schools, kindergarten through secondary. The Village Church has come or submitted an application to operate a school within the same facility. And currently schools, well, let me back up a little bit. This property is within the Wood Creek Regulatory Zone within the Washoe County Tahoe area plan. Currently, schools, kindergarten through secondary, are not listed as a permissible use in the Wood Creek Regulatory Zone. The TRPA Code of Ordinances allows for an applicant to request a temporary use at any location, even when that use is not listed as a permissible use within the applicable local plan, as long as it is treated as a special use. So we process it as a special use. So the Village Church has come to TRPA asking for a permit to operate on a temporary basis, a school in addition to the existing daycare and preschool, to operate on the site. A temporary permit issued through the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency would be good for 1 6-month period, with an option to extend for a second 6 months. So essentially, with the extension, would get them through 1 full school year. They are not proposing any physical improvements to the site, even though they are not proposing any physical improvements. The entire parcel is within high capability land, and the parcel is certified for best management practices. They will be able to utilize the existing parking on site. There will be no direct conflict between the church use and the proposed school use, specific to parking, or that would be the one issue regarding that. So again, within the staff summary online, there are the Sorry, I'm scrolling through this. I didn't have it in front. TRPA staff today is asking that the findings be made and approved, and then the project be approved. Again, issuing a permit for a temporary use for a school to operate at the existing village church. I'll go into further detail if you want, but I don't think it's necessary. It may all sound familiar.
Well, I do have a couple
Okay,
of questions.
Sure.
So this temporary permit would run from the date of issuance for 6 months. What is the timing? What is the process for applying for that second 6
Yeah.
months?
So, and it actually, the 6 months does not begin on the date the permit is issued.
Okay,
The 6 months begins on the date the permit is acknowledged.
okay,
So, and then I think the way it's written into the permit, or the way it's just written in the code, is that by request. So it would be up to the applicant to request from TRPA that the permit be extended for a second 6 month period. We then have then we would review the request, kind of evaluate how the use has operated within the first 6 months, and decide whether or not to grant a second 6 month extension.
and would that come back to the hearing
No.
officer?
The 6 month extension does not come back to the hearing
Okay.
officer.
Okay, I also have a question about the timing of the Washoe County process.
Yes.
For the amendment,
Okay.
and where they are in the process with the timing.
Okay, so that is a good question, and I should have addressed that, there is an existing, there's another applicant who has, is pursuing an area plan amendment with Washoe County. And they've been in discussion now for over a year. I'm just looking up I don't want to give erroneous information, but and it will not be me who processes the area plan amendment, but I did receive an update from Jacob Stock, who has provided a time frame that they are now planning on moving forward. And the area plan amendment has to be approved by Washoe County. And then after it's approved by Washoe County, it would come to TRPA for review and approval as well. It has been discussed on a less formal basis with the TRPA Regional Plan Implementation Committee. So as far as a proposed area plan amendment to add that land use, that was discussed very briefly in August and again in September. I show the dates that were provided to us last week were that it would go to the Washoe County Planning Commission in November 7th, it says. And it looks like maybe it has to go to the Washoe County Board of Commissioners twice. I show once on December 12th and a second time on January 16th. That schedule would then lead into it being presented to the TRPA APC on March 13th, 2024, to the Regional Plan Implementation Committee on March 27th, 2024, and then to the full governing board on April 24th, 2024.
Okay, so if that timeline
Mhm.
plays out, then that decision will be known
Yes,
before the next school year.
before the next school year for sure, yes.
Okay,
It's probably cutting it really close on granting the 6 month extension, but yes, before the next school year for sure. And just to let you know, we did receive 6 written comments for this project. I think 5 came in before the 4 o'clock deadline yesterday. Of the 6 that we received, 5 were in support and 1 was expressing some concern. The concern was mostly regarding the proposed area plan amendment.
yes,
So
I did read all of the
Okay.
comments that came in, and
Okay.
it does appear that most of the comments were
Mhm.
addressing the area
Mhm.
plan amendment, but I did read through them to, consider the concerns that they're raising here.
Yep.
Okay,
And just to clarify one thing too, I know I mentioned that existing on site, they do have a daycare and a preschool. Daycare and preschools are listed as permissible uses within the Wood Creek regulatory zone. So it is just the schools, kindergarten through secondary, that is currently not listed as permissible. So that's why the existing uses are operating legitimately or existing on the site.
yes, and based on the staff report, it doesn't appear there are going to be any physical changes.
No physical change.
Okay,
In this case, they have their playground in place and everything, because again, it's been operating like that for quite some time.
okay.
Mhm.
So, would anyone from the applicant, would you like to
Oh, no.
Say a few words.
I should have mentioned that too. This is Keith Schaefer with, RCI.
Keith Schaefer with RCI, representing the applicant, or we function as the applicant. I think you've covered it pretty well. There's a couple of items I just wanted to highlight and reinforce. The existing facility and its operation and in its building, in the parking and the site, is currently operating as the daycare and preschool. So issues with regard to circulation, parking, transportation, drop off, all of those items are gonna continue the same way they currently are right now. And there isn't any significant increase in that traffic pattern that we think causes any issues or problems with that. The facility is a church, and when it operates as a church and a sanctuary and a facility for worship, it has a much larger parking demand than the current use and the proposed use under this temporary use permit. So the parking is very adequate. There's no improvements to the parking. The BMPs have already been done on the project, and the property has been already qualified that way. Also wanted to clarify that the Village Church and the Village Academy are co-applicants in the Wood Creek plan application amendment. So it was said another applicant was doing it, but we are combined in that effort. Where and I read some of the conditions on that had to do with, that for properties or parcels of a certain size.
Yeah.
Right, could have a school. I haven't followed some of the latest activities with that, but this fits within that caveat. And this temporary use is largely so they can move forward with using the facility as a and it's the wording is kind of important, as through a kindergarten through secondary. And I wanted to just clarify that in the conditions of the acknowledgement, I guess it is acknowledgement agreement, it says kindergarten through secondary to operate on a temporary basis, accommodating kindergarten through 5th grade. We would like that to read 8th grade, because that's.
Oh, I think we may have we may have had a conversation about
The
that.
the sentence says both in the same
Yeah.
sentence.
Well, because, is that okay if I address what he's talking about?
Yeah, please do.
The TRP land use is titled schools, kindergarten through secondary. So the reference to that is to tie in the actual land use.
Right.
The kindergarten through 5th grade, I think somewhere in the paperwork, it might have said 5th, but then Tim and I did talk about that they are interested in going into middle school. So
Right.
I can make that revision in the.
And I think
if
that
it's
it was the
acceptable.
same for me. I think that as we put this plan together, one point in time, we were really
Mhm.
pushing for 5th grade.
Mhm.
The other item is, and I think it was clarified, I think that in our request, there might have been a difference in the number between what is being recommended in that special condition number 1, and that 85 is more of a correct number for us. I think we were between 80 and 120, but you listed 85.
Yeah,
in the
and that-
condition, which is fine.
Yeah. And that was, based on the conversation again with the applicant regarding the existing permit, like with the county, because there is a separate use permit with the county and separate licensing regarding the uses, especially with the daycare and preschool. So those were related to what the county has said that it can be accommodated.
Okay,
But it is, that does, we should clarify that I did not see anywhere where it mentioned 120.
and that's fine. I
Okay.
mean, your condition says 85 and we're fine
Okay.
with that. I think that in the backup documentation, I think we had stated 80 or somewhere in the
Okay.
description,
Mhm.
but 85
Okay.
is fine and it works.
And that's combined between the daycare, the preschool and the school.
Yes, that's my understanding.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's
Mhm.
my understanding. As part of the conditions, as we talked about, there's gonna be no anticipated facility improvements related to this temporary use. But there are conditions that say that we need to provide a site plan showing certain items, trash enclosure or trash dumpster area, circulation routing, a floor plan of the building and the rooms and some of those are those conditions we still need to comply with?
Yes.
That are just informational in existing rooms and where they
Yes.
need. And does that occur before this is officially acknowledged?
Yes.
I guess is a
So
question.
the way, if you read the way the permit is written, condition 1 is generally just a description of what's being proposed. Condition 2 references standard conditions. Special condition 3 is titled prior to permit acknowledgement of the following conditions of approval must be satisfied. So all the conditions identified in special condition 3 must be met prior to permit acknowledgement.
Okay, okay, prior to acknowledgement.
Mhm.
All right, and then that becomes a 6-month date when it's acknowledged.
When you acknowledge it, yeah.
Okay. All right.
So the date that, like, after we issue this permit formally, one of you representing the applicant will sign it, accepting the conditions. After you've met the conditions, you would submit those to the agency, and on the date that we stamp it and sign it, that's considered the date of acknowledgement.
And it's just, TRPA is an agency, this is not anything we need to take to the county.
Not for the
for these.
TRPA portion, no, because there's no physical improvements.
Correct.
There's nothing that we as an agency would be waiting for from the county. It's different, like if there was some construction
Correct,
associated
and
with
we
it,
have
then you
an
require the
applicant
building
projects
permit
along there
first,
like
yes.
that, where it's,
Yeah.
that's where the standard process is, when it's
Mhm.
acknowledged, it goes and
Yeah.
we get permits
Yeah.
and we go through the
To the
county.
building, yeah.
But, and I thought I had seen something in here about Washoe County building or a permit to Washoe County, and I just wanted to make sure that we can meet these conditions prior to acknowledgement or concurrently with that by providing you with the documentation.
Whatever is identified,
Okay.
yes.
Other than that, with regard to the project itself, this is a temporary use just to get us through the process before the Wood Creek special, the planning activity occurs, the development. And I don't think that there's anything else that we haven't covered, with regard to the project. Tim Gilbert, who represents the facility, is here, and I don't know if he has some things that he'd like to say, just quick, and he'd like to add.
Just real quickly, we've existed as a church since 1965. We've always thought having a school is a good idea. It's not a knee-jerk reaction to current events. We always have wanted to have a school there. We just want to teach kids to have a relationship with Jesus Christ. That is what this is all about for us. So sometimes we get very jealous about that. And I apologize if that has happened, but that is what we want to do. And we want to go through the processes. That's why we're here today.
All right.
Thank you.
I actually have just a couple, you might be able to answer this.
Mhm.
So there won't be any overlap between church services and the school use.
No, that's one of the beauties of this proposal is we're a church on Sundays.
Okay,
And so Monday through Saturday, that property was sitting idle. We're proposing a use for 5 of those 6 days.
okay. And I did read that in the staff report. I just wanted to confirm, we talked a little bit about the parking needs during the services and that sort of thing. So it's a total of 85.
Yes.
Okay, because there was a spot in the staff report where it said 80. But
Oh, I'm
it's
sorry.
still,
I think you could consider that a typo.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, okay, and in terms of, the site plan, that's something that is used, I just want to clarify, that's one of the things that's used by staff to ensure, when you say we don't anticipate any physical changes, that's not something that's authorized by this approval. This permit doesn't authorize any physical changes. So that site plan gives staff a baseline, you know, of what's existing there now. So that, you know, if there are proposed physical changes, that's a different,
Separate process.
separate process. So I just wanted to clarify that. Okay, so I don't have any other questions of the applicant.
Can I clarify
Go
one
ahead.
thing also that, because I know this came up in the discussion with the, ARPA back in September too, is the use that is being proposed and the use that is being proposed for amending into the regulatory zone, list of permissible uses, is schools, kindergarten through secondary. There is no distinction in that land use category between public school, private school, religious school. So it just so happens that this school will be held on a church property. But again, from the land use perspective, it is much broader than that.
Right. Okay, and that's the Washoe County process.
It is.
That is moving along.
Separately,
Yes.
not related to this, yeah.
Okay, all right, so I will open this for public comment. And since I've heard from the public that's here in the room, let's go ahead and see if there's anyone online who'd like to comment.
Okay, if any member of the public would like to address the hearings officer on this item, please raise your hand now by clicking on the raised hand at the bottom of your Zoom screen or by dialing *9 if you've joined by telephone. There are no hands raised to comment on this item.
Okay, well then I will close the public hearing and take action on this item. I will approve the required findings, including a finding of no significant effect, and approve the proposed project, subject to the conditions in the draft permit. And
I'm sorry, can I just ask for one distinction? Because one of the comments that Keith brought up, that I had referred to 5th grade, and can we just make that distinction that it will go through?
yes,
8th grade? Okay.
yes, so I will approve the project, subject to the conditions in the draft permit and the revision
Yeah.
from 5th grade to 8th grade.
Okay,
All right,
thank you.
and we can adjourn the meeting at 2:22.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies, for your time.